It's getting hotter. Hotter, 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 hotter. Hey, 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 hey. What do we want? Jobs. Hey, 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 hey. What do we want? Justice. Hey, 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 hey. What do we want? Climate action. Hey, hey, hey. Action now.
If we expect to progress on this issue, we need to understand that the environment and human rights are indivisible. The Office of the Human Rights of the High Commission on Human Rights said respecting human rights is not only a legal obligation, it is also a precondition for our societies to grow and prosper in peace and security. And recently, Canada underwent the final national event for reconciliation, but yet reconciliation has not yet happened in Canada. Reconciliation can only happen when Indigenous peoples have access to their lands and their territories. That freedom and justice is also our right. Indigenous people have been knocking on the doors of the settlers, of the colonizers for many generations. And it's good to see you all here. This is power of the people. This is the power we have to make a system change. But we need to change the way we live on this earth. We need to accept that we are part of creation. We are not separate from creation. Because we cannot live without water. We cannot live without the bumblebees that pollinate the food that we eat. But Mother Earth can certainly live without us. Justice, democracy, freedom. This is what Indigenous people have been looking for. But yet mining and resource development also attacks the integrity and the enjoyment of human rights of Indigenous women throughout the world. And we need to give back. You need to give back to Indigenous people because Canada's prosperity has been on the backs of Indigenous people. Our lands and our resources, our children. 3,000 children murdered in the Indian residential school. Over thousands and thousands of Indigenous women murdered and missing. This is part of the problem. The solution is you. It has to come from you, the constituents of your politicians. And finally say no to the injustice that's going on. No to the exploitation of the resources. Yes to respecting Indigenous people's human rights. The First Nations who are directly impacted by the tar sands for many generations now, they deserve to have the enjoyment of their human rights. They deserve to have a quality of life that most of us take for granted. And we need to look at climate justice and climate change as being part of our responsibility to present and future generations. It's the legacy that we're going to leave behind. It's the legacy that we need to start thinking about. And we need to see the earth as our mother, not just as Indigenous people have said, but the earth is our mother. She's alive. And just as all our relations that we depend on, our water is sacred, we are sacred. But nothing will change unless those of you make the next election, Indigenous people's self-determination, part of the electoral platform, no to the pipelines, no to dirty oil, and yes to sustainable development from this day on and into the future.
With the green, green.